It's time for Lumberjacks!
Lumberjacks is sponsored by Echo, only professional grade with 5-year warranty. Crown, protect, maintain, save. K100, for all your gas-powered equipment, make water burn. Yamaha, rev your heart.
For the third year in a row, we're up here in Brecon, a great competition in Central Ontario, featuring men and women from Eastern Canada and throughout Northeastern United States. And also for the third year in a row, we have Shannon O'Donnell and Cecil Starr, very instrumental in putting the show together. Hi, I'm Bill D with my co-host, Lumberjacks Borderlands, Rod Cumberland. Rod, this week we're featuring the Springboard chop and the single buck in the men's division, the Underhand chop and the stock saw in the women's division. Now, in the stock saw, it's not really anything about physical strength, it's all about what's between the ears.
Exactly. The stock saw, of course, are running CS600 Echo chainsaws. The ladies have to listen very closely to the RPMs, making sure they're running them at optimum levels all the time when they're cutting that block. The one to watch, I think, and that would be Gretchen Sikora. Of course, she comes from a big saw family, and we know that Chris is building a big hot saw, so I'd say it should be the one to watch in that event.
Now, we're also going to be starting the show off with the Springboard chop, always one of the crowd-pleasing favorites here, the Springboard chop. Who do you like in that event?
Well, I tell you, from the Americans, Matt Marks is trying to make a real name for himself, and he's doing quite well in the Springboard chop, but he's got to take down the likes of Cecil Starr, who's always a tough man at catching the Springboard chop, and Marcel Dupuis, who's at the top of his game right now in the chops.
Oh yeah, it's nice to be back up here in Brecon. Just an hour and a half drive north of Toronto, the biggest city in Canada. We got a place called Lagoon City. Just saw a picture of Lagoon City where a lot of people maybe retire, buy a condominium on the shores of Lake Simcoe, or just buy an investment property as well. Here we are at the big orange bleachers back in place. They are provided by Link Climate Care of Brecon. And Rod, we got a great field of competitors.
Brecon's not very far away from the guys in the States, so we've got a good cross-section of New York competitors, and they're here taking on the likes of Marcel Dupuis and Donald Lambert, the best in Eastern Canada.
We're going to be getting started with the Springboard chop. We're going to be showing you the top 4 heats of the Springboard chop. In the first 2 heats, we have a couple of Americans taking on a couple of strong Canadians.
I'm Gaston Dubarry. I'm from Shipshaw, Quebec. I'm working for Rio Tinto, Alcan, like operator.
Dave Engasser from Virgil, New York, lineman for New York State Electric and Gas.
Well, we're getting started here, Rob, with the first heat of the Springboard chop. They got 11 inches round of trembling aspen up top. A guy who's been around forever, definitely in the twilight of his career, Gaston Duperry. We've seen him lots on Lumberjacks TV series, taking on Engasser. You know him well. He's been around for quite a few years as well.
Exactly. Now, what we want to watch for, we want to see a good 4-stroke pockets. If these guys are going to be serious contenders in the Springboard chop, 4 strokes, 1 down, 1 flat, 2 to follow it, and they clean those chips out, and then they're up on that first board.
There's a couple of little chips there that Engasser's taking his time to move out with his axe. And Gaston, and that's legal, you can go in there with your fingers and actually clean out the chips. Your board's not going to sit if the chips are still sitting there. Oh, and Gaston takes a little tumble.
Gaston, you can see his legs and knees here aren't working well. The guy's getting up in his twilight of his career here, and he's relying a lot on his axe to actually pull him up because his knees aren't working, and the axe comes right out of the tree.
Engasser trying to make some quick work of that second notch. He's in there with the last couple of strokes. Again, flicking the axe out. He goes in there with his hands, pulls out the last chip, drives his axe in, and he sets his board.
If those little chips stay in there, when your board goes in, it doesn't go right to the back of the notch, and actually when you stand on your board, it has a lot more chance of it's actually popping out of your pocket.
Now in that wide shot there, you can see Engasser testing the back of his board. How much can I get out there? How much leverage can I get? You want to get out in the back of your board so you can get a lot of good leverage, don't you?
The farther from the tree you get, the more power you have in your swing, and of course we've heard as Gaston struggles here to get on the second board. Guys, when they get too tight to the pole, they just arm chop, and it's a long way through that block when you're just using your arms.
Now here we see Gaston testing his board. He's testing his entire body here as Engasser wails away in the front side. He's ready to make his turn. Engasser makes his turn over the backside.
He's doing a great job here on this as Gaston just getting into the big wood here now, but Engasser's going to drive it off here in just over a minute 20.
122.5 for Dave Engasser as Gaston is really struggling. He's out of breath. He's not sure. He's shaking his head. He may be pulling the plug. So you were 10 and 10 on your notch. It's not probably what you wanted, but the most important is you want to be safe up there as well. Tell me how important it is on your second notch. I see you going in there with your fingers to move out a few chips. That's critical, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's anything in the back that's not to a point, Whether you don't cut it to a point or there's a chip hanging in there, the board's not to the back of the pocket, and it's going to crush. I mean, you put 220 pounds on it, it's going to crush.
Yeah, usually what you want to do with springboard chopping is use a healer axe and flick those chips out of there. But if they don't come out with the axe, you've got to make sure you palm it with your fingers or that board's coming out.
Well, 122.5 is the time to be set by Engasser. We got John Kenward taking on Chris Henning here. Now, Chris Henning is doing a great job with his game these days. John Kenward just coming back into the game after about 10, 12 years out of it. And look at the short handle that John Kenward's using.
Last time we saw him was in 2001 in Musquodoboit, Nova Scotia. Chris Henning gets up on a really steep board here. And back then, Kenward was using a little short handle, and he still has it.
Well, it hasn't grown at all. He hasn't watered that handle at all to make it grow a little bit longer. But when you use a short handle like John Kenward is doing, you can't really get the leverage as Chris Henning climbs onto his second board.
With a short handle, actually, he's doing mostly wrist chopping here. You can see that now. Good thing that Kenward's such a strong man because he can really bury that axe. But, man, that short handle is going to cost him.
Now, Chris Henning's trying to get stable out there. Ideally, again, if you look at his right foot, his back foot, he wants to get out there to the back of his board, maximize the leverage that he's going to have. But the poles here, they're set on concrete. They're not buried into the ground. The poles are just a little bit wobbly, and Chris Henning, he's a little bit nervous. Look at his legs shaking there.
You can tell he doesn't want to get back on his board, so he's going to be in tight to the board. Kenward's going to be in tight to the tree because his board is so short. He's got a short axe handle and a short springboard, so he's going to be using all of his strength in here to get this block off.
Well, Henning has just resigned to the fact that he's not going to be able to back off on the board. He's going to wail away in this. He's working on his front side. He's almost going to make his turn. He's looking to take down the 122.5 set by his countryman, Dave Engasser.
He's doing it as a great pace here, actually, Chris Henning. He's going to turn around and try to slice it off here in the back, but again, things are really slow for him because he's so nervous about this wobbly pole.
He's on the backside right now. He's not going to beat Dave Engasser. He's taking some downstrokes. He's got one hand on the log, one hand on the axe, and Chris Henning comes in with a 132.35.
And John Kenward, despite the short handle and board, is right behind him.
Pretty good climb there for you, Chris, but you got to be unhappy with the unsettled pole itself. Was shaking a lot, eh?
Yeah, I should have watched the other competitors a little better before me because I noticed their poles were wiggling a little, but didn't really pick up on it. That I set up on that pole, so all my weight was on the weak side of it. So when it got out, it wasn't going anywhere, but it's really unsettling once you get up there. So I just got in my nerves a little too much.
Well, we're just getting started here at the Ontario Lumberjack Championships in Brecken, Ontario. Engasser leading the way halfway through the springboard chop with a 122.5. We're an hour and a half north of Toronto in Central Ontario for the Ontario Lumberjack Championships. We took a few minutes out of our day to talk to the organizer, Shannon O'Donnell. Now, Shannon, you've been involved with this competition for 3 years now. This is being the third year. Just tell me about what it takes, the time, the commitment, and the manpower to get one of these things going.
Sure, yeah, so this is our third year, and we're really excited to be here again and still have the crowds and this many people involved. It takes a ton of effort. The community helps out so much. We have a ton of volunteers, probably about 80 or more volunteers, 2 steering committees that help, Brecken Community Center Board and a Lumberjack committee. There's so many people involved in this, and I mean, we couldn't do it without all the help and the sweat that goes into it all.
Well, of course, you got a whole range of sponsors that support you every year, you know, and the one that always comes to mind quickly is Link Climate Care, because behind us is a big crowd again this year, and we got those big orange bleachers.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, without Link supporting us like that and bringing these bleachers in, we wouldn't be able to support the crowds that we do have. So it's really given us the opportunity to help expand the event and grow it a little bit, and you know, we're just so grateful for that. It also makes it look really professional, I think, and a lot of fun.
Now, this show is seen from British Columbia to Newfoundland. You know, it kind of puts Brecken, Ontario on the map a little bit. And just tell me about a little bit about maybe the pride that some people feel, the fact that they're seen all over Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brecken is a really, really small town. Ramera Township, as well as is not a particularly well-known township or area on Lake Simcoe, but we do get a lot of visitors because we are cottage country. There's lots of things going on all year around here, and this is such a great way to get people so involved in their community and be really proud of something here. So it's been a long time since we've had some really good, big events that bring the local people together, but also that bring people from outside of the community here. So that's been, I think, something that, you know, people can really feel pride in. They get excited to see themselves on TV, of course, you know, everybody loves that, and just to come out and enjoy the day and see people that, you know, you maybe don't run into all the time in town.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Cecil Starr, utility forester with Hydro One, and I'm also a farmer, and I live in Lake Dalrymple, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Donald Lambert from Saint-Gilles, Quebec, and I am a technician solution specialist for Ricoh Canada.
Well, we have 2 springboard heats in the books that we saw before the break. At 122.5 is Dave Engasser leading the way. We got a grudge match here, Ontario versus Quebec. Cecil and Donald, they've battled each other many times over the years.
Both great axemen. They love the springboard chop. Cecil Starr will be interesting to watch him in this event because he does not like a wobbly pole, and when he gets up to the top, that's exactly what he's going to be faced with.
Well, he knows these poles better than anybody. He actually set them up. They're hinge stands there, and you can see him cleaning out, just like you talked before, he's cleaning out the mess.
Didn't actually clean it out enough, and that's exactly what happens when you don't. Cecil Starr's board pops out, gives Don Lambert a little bit of an edge as he climbs up and gets ready to make his second notch.
Well, Donald knows he's got a lead right now against Cecil, but he's going to try and take down the 122.5 set by Engasser, and Cecil is now playing catch-up. Donald's struggling with his second notch now.
And see, again, he's not going to use his fingers. He's trying to flick that out with his axe. It's actually costing Donald a lot of seconds here. Cecil Starr gaining some ground, but his notch also really wide here. Cecil Starr's second notch is not going the way he wants it either.
Well, we've got a good field of competitors here, but we've yet to see a 4-hit notch. Cecil looks like he's got a mountain of a hole there. He's got to make sure it's firm. He's still trying to catch Donald as Donald's well into his block.
Brecken, Ontario, first show of the year. So again, the guys are just getting the rust off the axes and the rust off their techniques here. So we're seeing a little bit of bobbles here by guys that typically are picture perfect.
Once again, a shaky pole. These poles are on concrete and weighted down with some cement blocks. Donald, he makes his turn to the backside, but he's got to check out the sturdiness of the pole.
Again, it's an uncomfortableness with that pole moving around the top. Don Lambert trying to keep his balance as he gets ready to strike off the last few swings here to drive the block off at the top of the springboard as Cecil Starr's getting into the small wood.
Donald's trying to break things off, but he's trying to hold on to his balance. He comes in with a 125.9. He doesn't take down Engasser's 122. Cecil, uncharacteristically, is struggling towards the end here.
Cecil Starr obviously setting the show up has taken a little bit of steam out of him, but in this particular event here, he has wide notches. His board is sagging at the top. His axe is sticking a lot on him, so things aren't going very well for Cecil in the springboard chop.
You had some trouble with your second pocket there, and you spent a lot of time with your hands in there. What was going on?
Well, I really miss it. Miss my hit. Well, it's not really bad, but I know I had a kind of stare, but my inside, my top, and my bottom was not too much angle, so I knew I would be okay.
Interesting setup as we head into the last heat of the springboard chop. Both these guys, great springboard cutters. They know there's all kinds of room. 1 minute, 22 seconds still by Dave Engasser's the time to beat. These guys climb fast. Watch how they take their time here. They know they just have to put in 2 solid notches and take their time at the top.
Well, neither one of these guys is coming out with a 4-hit notch. Looks like Matt Marks is ahead of Marcel at this point. He's got to be happy with that when he makes his jump up to the springboard. Marcel right behind him, right on his heels.
And it's nice and deep for Marcel. He's a big, heavy man, so he wants to make sure he's deep.
Nice, about 4 or 5 hit notch there by Matt Marks. Nice slope on it there. He's going to get out in the back of that board. Probably a little bit steeper than he'd like. Marcel, once again, right on his heels.
Really tough to chop when your board is up at an angle. It lifts your back leg up. You don't get as much spring and power off that back leg. But boy, Matt Marks, he's doing exactly what he should be doing. He moved his weight back on his board. The board settled down, and now he can use all of his strength and all of his legs in this chop, and he's doing a great job.
Full arm extension for Matt Marks. I'm sure Marcel would like a little bit more arm extension because he's a powerful man. He's a little bit close to the pole. Matt Marks is on the backside.
Marcel actually really tight to the pole. As Matt Marks drives it off, he wins it at 53.1. Marcel Dupuis a little bit discouraged about that because he knew he was playing catch-up the last little bit.
Great heat in the springboard chop. Pretty good climb there, 6 and 6. You know, you're coming a long way in your springboard chop and, you know, racing with the best of them, aren't you?
Sure, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just been putting a lot of time in, had a lot of help from friends, so.
Well, I know you won a competition last year. You didn't win a competition, but you did really well in a competition in Barrie. I saw you last year. I mean, 6 and 6 is a good climb. You're going against Marcel Dupuis. You know you're in a race there. Sure. Just tell me what you got going on up top there with that piece of wood.
It's a pretty firm piece of aspen. Cecil's done a very good job of getting all the wood, and all of it's very even. Just kind of cut my own block, I guess. I got up there, and I noticed that a lot of the people today weren't going as fast as they should have been, letting the axe do the work. So firmer wood, you just got to put your hits in. So that's what I was going for.
Well, Matt Marks starting to show the signs of a seasoned veteran, reading the guys, reading the wood well, put down a good chop to win it with a 53.11.
One of the sponsors here at the Brecon competition is Lafarge. They have a quarry just outside of Brecon, and we had a chance to talk to Rob McCarthy.
Shannon approached us to help clean up the park and provide some of our material in order to make the driveway better and the accesses for the Lumberjacks. So it was a natural fit for us. We couldn't say no. It was a great opportunity for us to give back to the community that we work and live in.
Hi, I'm Heather Hyatt. I'm from Strathroy, Ontario, and I work for Canada Post.
I'm Tracy Henning from Walworth, New York, and I'm a Zumba instructor.
Well, we've been watching the men here at the Ontario Lumberjack Championships in the Springboard Chop. We are now going to turn our attention to the women swinging the axes. This is the women's underhand chop. We are going to be showing you the top heat here. Tracy Henning taking on Heather Hyatt.
And Tracy Henning, one of the top competitors out of New York here at Brecon, Ontario, taking on Heather Hyatt. You can see again here, Tracy Henning has a missing blow there, but their line's not very good. Again, the first show of the year, usually they're going to knock the rust off the axes and off themselves to get into this chop.
And you may consider that they're only wearing running shoes, but they do have chainmail socks on to avoid injury from those glancing blows. Heather Hyatt makes her turn over the backside. Tracy Henning's behind her at this point.
And again, you never know whether the person has done the work in the front or not. Just because they make the turn first does not necessarily mean they're going to finish the block ahead of their competitor. But Heather Hyatt, she knows how to do an underhand chop. She's put a great front in. Good drivers. They get into the small wood here.
And Heather's driving things off on her right side there. And Heather Hyatt wins the underhand chop in a time of 42.15. Tracy's having a hard time struggling. She may just be running out of gas. A lot about Lumberjack sports is, about practicing, hard work, repetition, all that sort of thing. Just tell me about your practice schedule a little bit.
I practice on Tuesday nights when my husband watches the baby, so I sneak out there, and I also work out in the basement and do a jog when I can.
And your shopping game, I talked today a lot about contrasting styles. You got the big, powerful strokes of Tracy Henning going against some of a competitor a little bit smaller, but you got to be a little more precise, right?
Yeah, you have to hit your lines or you're just wasting your time. And you can't afford to miss when you have someone who can muscle it off. So you have to get in there, be precise, pardon me, and hit it as hard as you can.
Well, the women's underhand chop is now complete. We have 4 Canadians and 1 American on this board. Heather Hyatt, clearly the class of the field, winning by 17 seconds over Janet Walker from Nova Scotia. Now Heather's putting down her axe, picking up a saw here. She's got an Echo chainsaw taking on Gretchen Sikora. This is the stock saw where they got to do 2 cuts within 4 inches.
They're cutting 12 inches of round wood, and again, they're using CX600 Echo chainsaws. The key to this event for the ladies is to have a really good ear. Listen to the RPMs that the saw is putting out, and as they go down through the round block, of course, it's changing in size. They got to make sure they're getting the maximum RPMs the whole way through the block.
Well, Gretchen Sikora is married to one of the top U.S. sawyers, Chris Sikora, taking on Heather Hyatt, who's actually an ex-arborist. Heather quick to the wood, both of them quick to the wood. Heather through that first cut, all the way through her second cut, and Heather Hyatt takes out the whole field, and the women's stock saw, she comes in with a 7.70. Gretchen right behind her with a 7.92. What a great performance.
Things are always close in the Echo Stock Saw event. You can see our top 5 competitors here all within a second, but Heather Hyatt from Ontario lays down a 7.7 and comes home with first place.
Well, we're back here in Brecon, Ontario for the Ontario Lumberjack Championships. We've seen a lot of chopping so far, a little bit of sawing, but now we are heading into what is often referred to as the misery whip. It is the single buck. 14 inches round of aspen, 2 guys. We have a couple of Americans taking on a couple of Canadians in the second heat. Matt Marks and Dave Angasser in his first heat.
Big, long saws in this heat. You can see Dave Angasser's blade actually taller than he is. He's over 6 foot tall. So they got big, long blades and want to make big, long strokes and pull it right to the chest where most of their power is generated.
Just before the heat got started there, you see the wind adjusting Dave Angasser's saw a little bit. It was wavering. Look at the speed on Matt Marks. Both guys, what a great race.
But Angasser's blade is sinking wicked fast. Oh, and Matt Marks, his blade comes out before he's done the block. He's going to have to go back and finish that to get a time. But Angasser's going to be the one that wins this heat.
So you're going pretty well in the single buck. You know, I know you're pretty upset with what happened at the very end there because it probably cost you 5 seconds, maybe 7 seconds. What exactly happened there?
Well, I just was trying to drive it off. I must have torqued the handle a little bit, and there's a very small piece of wood at the bottom that didn't come off with it, so I kind of dropped the cookies.
Well, the hard and fast rule of lumberjack sports is you have to either saw or chop your way through all the wood that is presented to you, and that's going to cost Matt Marks a little bit of money, and it's going to cost him some places in the standings because he had to go back and cut about a 1/4 inch of wood. This next heat, Marcel Dupuis taking on Donald Lambert. For many years, Donald Lambert has been the top of this game.
This is a well-seated event right here because the two best in the country right now are up against each other in the single buck. Don Lambert in the twilight of his career, but he's still pulling a great saw. Marcel Dupuis, though, he's really coming from behind this single buck, and look at him run the saw here.
He's lifting it a little bit as he pulls it back towards him. Donald Lambert, nice and smooth, working his way through the wood here. Looks like Donald Lambert is going to win the heat. He does win the heat over Marcel Dupuis. Comes in with a time of 12.2, and he wins a single buck and a real strong field of competitors. So you know the guys in Eastern Canada, some of the guys that you need to beat, chopping and sawing. Marcel's one of the guys you need to beat on a regular basis, right? To like in single buck?
Yeah, well, yes and no. Cecile usually is a good one, but today and this time it is Marcel I have to beat because we have some qualification to go through, and it is a kind of tune-up for me against him all along up to there.
Well, there it is, Rod. You called it. Donald Lambert, one of the best single buckers in the country, comes in with a 12.28. He takes out a real strong field by being the best single bucker at the Ontario Lumberjack Championships.
And that crown pivotal point today focuses on Matt Marks from New York. He wins a springboard chop and is on his way to a great finish in the single buck, but he has a bobble and actually finishes out of the placings.
And 1/3 of the way through the competition here, we have a three-way tie for first place with 125 points. Lambert, Engasser, and Dupuis. Clearly, Matt Marks' single buck has cost him, putting him down to 4th place.
And that gas guzzler lumberjack of the day is actually a lumberjill. Focuses on Ontario's Heather Hyatt. She wins first place in the women's underhand chop and then takes home the Echo stock saw.
Lumberjacks is sponsored by Echo, only professional grade with 5-year warranty. Crown, protect, maintain, save. Quick Dam, the new alternative to heavy sandbags. Yamaha, rev your heart.
Gaston Dubarry.
I'm a logger.
And I'm a firefighter for the City of Moncton.
And I'm a groundskeeper.
Senior sanitarian.
I'm a state land manager.
And I work for Canada Post.
I'm from Shipshaw, Quebec.
And I'm currently the field service coordinator for Holstein, Canada.
A natural sciences teacher. And I work for the City of Toronto.
I'm working for Rio Tinto, HYATT.
And I'm a forester for the City of Brampton.
And I'm a utility arborist.
And I'm a Zumba instructor.
And I'm a bush supervisor.
Like operator.
And I'm a clinical laboratory technologist at Rochester General Hospital.
I am a technician solution specialist for Ricoh Canada.
And I do general construction.
And I'm an eBay retailer.
Utility forester with Hydro One.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.